The State of California Department of Water Resources seal. It features a cloudy sky over a winding river cutting through a field, with mountains in the background and an outline of the state in the foreground. Text: Climate Conversations. Tuolumne Band of Miwok Indians. The tribe is marked on a map of California at the western base of the Sierra Nevada. Dennis Hendricks, Community Council.
Clearly, I think back in the day there was more water available, and in the recent years here in this state, in California, we've had pretty severe drought, and conditions have changed substantially. Back when I was growing up, the winters were, I would say, more harsh than they are now. We used to get a lot more snow, we had a lot more rain. In the wintertime, there was a lot of thunder and lightning that, we don't see as much now. But it's definitely different, and I can see the change. If you look at the drying and the fires that we have in the state of California and what's happened over the recent years, just about 4 years ago, we had a huge rim fire that came close to here. We didn't have to evacuate, but we were certainly on alert. And I think that's a part of the conditions of what's happening with the climate.
The biggest that is happening throughout the whole state is tree mortality, and it was back in 2015, so over 2 years, that we actually started to notice that there were some of our pine trees that were affected. And so we worked with the Forest Service, the Bureau of Indian Affairs, and identifying the bark beetle as the cause for the death of many of our pine trees. So because of the change in weather and temperature, the bark beetle now is seen at a higher elevation than it ever was before because it's gotten warmer. Then you add the fact that we haven't had a lot of water, and because there's lack of water, they haven't been able to fight off the bark beetle because they're too busy trying to fight off the drought. So they aren't able to produce sap that then pushes the beetle out. And so that's definitely, drought has had a huge impact on the ability of the trees to fight off the bark beetle like it would normally.
You see it all around you. You see the dead trees, you see the grass crop, you see, the coloration of everything that takes place around you, and it's different. It's severely different. You have just enough rain to produce just enough grass, tall enough grass, but you don't have enough rain to keep that grass moist for, a sufficient amount of time. So with that, you get the increase of fires, you get the lack of, production of acorns, you get the bug kill, and it takes place, you see it. So as well as hearing it all around your community from elders and those that have been here for much longer, but you also see the small changes that take place every year.
We spend a lot of time in our planning and development department and within the tribe understanding historically what we used to have and compared to what we have right now. But part of our job is really planning for the future, is for the tribe to be sustainable. And part of being sovereign, part of being responsible for your community is providing for that community. And so when we look at natural resources or those resources that we're dependent upon, water or power, shelter, those things that we have to provide. Water, for example, is something that we are spending time analyzing, the quality of water. We do that quite a bit here through our environmental program, making sure that it's clean, that it's safe drinking water. But we're also looking at where the water comes from for our residential community, and if that is ever impacted, what are we going to do in the meantime to provide water to our people if that system either fails or for whatever reason isn't available to provide water to our community. So storage, looking at improving our wells, increasing the number of wells, making sure we have the storage capacity, and then obviously the infrastructure to hook up. All of those things. So in planning, we're looking at that, just the feasibility of it, the cost analysis, having the Tribal Council look at prioritizing those future costs so that we can start building that so that we are being proactive and not reactive.
Zandra Beats, Elder.
Listen to the elders, listen to what they're talking about, and give them that availability, give the young people that availability of knowledge to get. I mean, I know we have everything in terms of looking, you know, when you don't know the answer to something, you Google it, right? There's importance to that availability of instant information, but also when you're dealing with cultural entities, it's not instant. It's not instant at all. And especially, I think Native people are offended when you take it for granted that, you know, it's so easy to make acorn mush or to do basketry, you know, doing it in the old way. Yeah, I would advise that there's keeping the knowledge available to the young people and teach them that patience.
Text: Dry Creek Band of Pomo Indians. Dry Creek Rancheria Band of Pomo Indians is marked on a map of California, located in the northern part of the state in Sonoma County. Clint McKay, Dry Creek Rancheria.
Well, I think climate change to us is a change in the normal patterns. And so time frames for many generations on the appropriate time to go gather materials and plants and food stuff and things like that have really been thrown off. And so it's hard. We're seeing less availability. We have seen the quality of those plants suffer in what they produce. Quality meaning like for our basketry materials, the shoots and the roots that we gather are having a hard time growing to the natural lengths and widths that we use. We're seeing things like our oak trees are not producing the amount of acorn that they used to. We're seeing the acorn not be as large. We've also seen a drastic increase in with the impact of pests, not only in our basketry material, but in our foodstuffs as well.
Tall grass along a river.
So some specific changes where climate change has affected our native plants is in our sedge beds. Normally, when we get plenty of rainfall, the sedge beds kind of flood out, and then they bring in all those organic nutrients, things like that. And then when the water recedes, you have all that compost, all that mulch there, which feeds those native plants. And so without that being able to occur anymore, we have literally seen generations old sedge bed turn to weeds. We have witnessed stands and groves of black oak, which is what my tribe uses to gather acorns for our acorn soup. We've seen whole stands of oaks fall through things like sudden oak death syndrome. We have seen whole areas that used to be lush that are now just gone. Yeah, so what it means for us is a lot more time spent out in the field watching these plants, trying to pick them at just the right time. Before, it was just, you knew this month, at some time this month, this particular plant was going to be ready, or this type of food was going to be ready. We can't do that now. So we're having to monitor the plants a lot more than we did in the past. And actually we're having to gather some of the plants and some of the materials before they're actually ready. My tribe is heavily involved in adapting to these climate changes, as are several other agencies that I work with. And so the biggest thing that I've seen happen is tribes and native people are actually trying to manipulate, if you will, nature. And that's something that we never did before. We would always enhance it. We would try to support it the best we could. But now we're almost trying to set up artificial situations and places to try to find locations that are most suitable for these plants. So what I mean is, like before, sedge grew where sedge grew. And we would go in there and weed it and keep the invasive plants and things like that out of it. Whereas now we find ourselves walking along a levee or along the shores of a pond and saying, I wonder if we could get sedge to grow here. And now you hear the term native plant gardens, where people are trying to manipulate the environment or find or produce that situation that's most advantageous to those plants.
Grassy marsh.
Well, climate change impacts my daily life because I live my life as a Native person. So all of the things that we've been talking about, like the gathering of our traditional foods, the gathering of our basketry material, that isn't something that I just do occasionally. That's a part of my everyday life. So, if I'm not able to go out and get the quality of basketry materials that I need, if I'm not able to go out and get the quality and the amount of traditional foods that my family needs, then that is a direct impact on our daily life.
Clint nods. Text, Tubatula Bal. Samantha riding horse, Miranda Rancheria.
You look on the maps of California Indians, and you see the tribal territories, and you'll see the Tabatalaba people. We had quite a bit of territory.
A river flows.
It's beautiful because here we have the South Fork River, which runs right through the valley down there. And look how green it is. And the word for South Fork River is Kujibish Wanup, means South Fork River.
Brush lines a river.
When we look down there and you see that, it's beautiful. We're lucky to even still be here.
Well, I used to go for a walk in the hills with my mother, and she would pick wild chia, and we would pick gooseberries, and she would say to take sand and throw it on the bushes. That way it will alert the rattlesnakes. And sometimes after a rain, she would go and get mushrooms. I think it probably doesn't grow it anymore because of the climate change.
Robert Gomez.
Dad used to take me over there in the 70s, and I remember the creeks running really deep, and that's where he'd pinpoint places where he would live, where they used to live when they were kids and so on and so forth. And he said the creek was a lot fuller then. These holes in the rocks there, they're used for grinding food, acorns or nuts or seeds and things of that nature, and what they call slicks, and they'll use that to grind that into a fine powder. Yeah, this is a very unique area.
Markings on a rock.
I understand there's different rocks throughout this area, just loaded with these type of holes, and so that would indicate to me that this was a very stable village site.
Shrubs dot rocky hillsides. Tina Guerrero, Tubatula Bal tribe of Kern Valley.
We used to go just right back to Walker Pass and gather pine nuts, and there's none there anymore because the trees are dying. A lot of the trees are dying, a lot of the forests are dying because of no water or a beetle that kills the trees.
The beetle came and killed a lot of the pine nut trees, and all because of the drought, the environment, things are changing. And if you go up higher, like around the 5,000 foot, you'll see our pine nut trees, acres and acres of them dead.
Brown trees.
It's the gathering of the pine nuts, and like I said, there isn't any. You have to travel a long ways to go, like up Bishop area to gather.
This particular area apparently was very green, very foresty when they were younger. Now look at it the way it is now. It's dry, and the infestation of the beetles and the drought and so on and so forth, it all adds to the kind of deterioration of the land.
What we try to teach the kids is nature. No killing anything unless they're going to use it. If you're going to kill an animal, you better eat it. We just try to make them be as the best human beings that they can be. When it comes to nature, when it comes to their surroundings, take care of things.
A rocky meadow.
And that's all we can actually do to hopefully let them see. Right now they're a little bit too young to actually explain to them the changing of the earth and why it's so hot and why there's no rain. And we take them out to ceremonies. We take them out to gather and teach them to leave offerings. You take something, you give something, and that's about the best we can do. Hopefully they'll grow up to be good human beings.
Text: Blue Lake Rancheria. The tribe is marked in the northwest corner of a map of California, located in Humboldt County. Art Ramsey, Treasurer Secretary, Blue Lake Rancheria Tribal Council.
When I was a kid in Mad River, and I know people say this and people look at you like you're crazy, but you could almost walk across the river on their backs. I mean, everywhere you looked, it was just salmon going upriver. And you don't see that anymore at all.
Yeah, you know, I fished here on the Mad River for a number of years, and there is a change. I mean, it used to be in the spring, we had strong salmon runs. You could go down and watch them come through riffles. The river here, it never did maintain a strong flow in the summer, but the water's pretty stagnant now in the summer. Definitely less water flow. It's reflected in fish runs in all of the 6 rivers here. The fish runs in the Mad River have been really bad for the last decade. We've had a couple of decent runs. Salmon runs are pretty much non-existent now. Now it's only steelhead in this river.
The oceans are changing, or our ocean is changing off our coast. You used to be able to go out and the water was always fairly calm. And the way it is now, it's too rough. And we have way, way more rough days now than we used to. And it seems like our oceans out here have gotten warmer than they were 20 years ago.
I grew up here in Blue Lake, and I got the benefit of seeing what it used to look like. Where the casino, rancheria office, and hotel stand right now, I rode horses in this field as a kid. It was really a great place to grow up. So it's important for me personally and our tribe to really be stewards for this area.
A dense forest.
And then really we got to a place where we were really tired of, you know, during the storms in the winter of having power outages here. So when we had the opportunity to try to develop a microgrid, we really jumped on that, and it was something that was seen positively both for resiliency and, you know, economically. It helps to save us some money, and it lowers our carbon footprint. So it's one of those projects that's good for really all 3 reasons.
We're trying to reduce our footprint to the smallest amount possible. It's the right thing to do.
A beach sunset.
We already saw what we think are some of the effects of climate change already. And, you know, for us, it's like, what are you going to pass on to your children? Where are you going to go? Is there going to be no fish runs moving forward if we don't do something? Or, you know, so I think we have a duty and an obligation if we want to pass something meaningful onto our children to try to make some of those changes now. You know, look at your environment. And if you don't like the way things are going, there's things you can do about it.
Large boulders in front of an orange and purple sunset. Text: Climate Conversations. Created by California Department of Water Resources. Ellis Olin, Zach Cunningham, Emily Alejandrino, Albert Madrid, Ryan McKinney, Robert Pine. Special thanks to Dry Creek Band of Pomo Indians. Tubatula Bal. Blue Lake Rancheria. Tuolumne Band of Miwok Indians. Beth Rose Middleton, Ph.D., Associate Professor of Native American Studies at UC Davis. World Imagery. Source: Esri, Digital Globe, GOI, Earthstar Geographics, CNES Airbus DS, USDA, USGS, AeroGrid, IGN, and the GIS user community. On Our Journey, written and performed by Mary Youngblood, from the album, Dance with the Wind, courtesy of Mary Youngblood and Silverware Records.